Welcome to Scoop World Order. It is Sunday night. Spring ball is completely over. It is the time of year where summer conditioning is getting ready to crank up. A lot of guys showed out yesterday. There's some really nice performances. Some guys in the trenches I thought looked good, better than a lot of the fan base did. Rewatched the tape today, so I'm going to give you some of my breakdown. We're going to break a couple plays down from the game, some of the stuff you could expect. Also, thoughts and prayers going out to Brian Hartline. It was in a unfortunate accident. He wrecked his 2x2, flipped it. There is an investigation going on by the Delaware County Police Department right now. So thoughts and prayers. I'm glad he is okay and has not suffered any life-threatening injuries. Hopefully he gets released tonight from Riverside Medical Center where he was held overnight. As always, thank you guys for watching this show. We appreciate you guys. A lot of really good stuff, a lot of good recruiting stuff going on. A lot of really, the spring game had a lot of good tape. A lot of young guys got in there. That's kind of the purpose of it, to get those guys out there, get them calloused up a little bit in front of the fans. Weather was great. A lot of great recruits there. JJ Smith went down and balled out for the 7-on-7 South Florida Express. Aaron Nolan won the MVP of the Rivals Camp in Atlanta. So a lot of these guys, they were here yesterday hanging out, and today they went to work and balled out at their respective camps and 7-on-7 tournaments. So it's pretty cool to see these guys not hang around here for no reason and to go compete the very next day. With that being said, going to bring in my good friend Nevada. Nevada, how are you today?
Doing great, man. That was a great finish to the spring practice, and feel like we learned an awful lot about Ohio State football. And today's just a great day. I always like to, coming out of these things about injuries, and then sure enough, the worst injury in the spring happens to a coach the night after the spring game. So prayers to Hardline. Hope he's okay, and hopefully that could have been worse. It sounds like, and hopefully makes a quick recovery.
Yeah, that really is the biggest goal of this whole spring, is you don't want that Mitchell Mountain injury that hampers like that dark cloud at the end of spring ball. He tore his ACL during the game. The guys got out of there healthy. I think a lot of guys, for better or worse, know where they stand now on the depth chart, at least preliminary going into training camp. So I'm sure we'll have a handful of guys hit the portal this week. I imagine 5 to 10 will probably take off and go trying to find somewhere where they can play. A lot of the names are pretty obvious, guys that really didn't play much or they're low on the depth chart. But it also gives us the opportunity to go and maybe enhance our roster. If there's some guys from lower tier programs that are looking around, there's not many open spots on our depth chart. I mean, honestly, if you're a receiver, running back, tight end, you probably want to keep looking for another program. You might take another offensive lineman, might take a D tackle, but we're pretty loaded up at the rest of the spots. If there's some all-world kicker out there, I'd love to have him join the fray. But Nevada, what are your thoughts on the portal? How much shopping do we do? How much attrition do you see? Where are we at with that, in your opinion?
Well, I think Ohio State's really treading kind of carefully in the portal right now, and I think they're, one of the initial concerns about portal guys when we first started talking about this is just kind of how it upsets chemistry. Bringing them in, this late. I think there's a time and a place for bringing guys in. I think anybody that they bring in at this point would have to be just an absolutely massive upgrade, and unfortunately, they're just not. A lot of massive upgrade guys out there. So I know other sites had this thing about how Ohio State was going to be bringing in 2 offensive tackles, and it was the stupidest story that I've ever heard. And the fact that people put stuff like that out there with a straight face is just embarrassing. It's embarrassing to our business when people do that stuff because, look, if Orlando Pace and Corey Stringer, God rest his soul, came back and said, yeah, we want to play. Yeah, would you get those guys? Yeah, but you know something? Orlando Pace and Corey Stringer aren't walking through the door anytime soon. You've got dudes. You're not going to go get a quarterback. As you said, you maybe get a lineman, maybe get a defensive tackle, but there's just very limited guys that are available. So I wouldn't expect to see a lot of them, movement towards Ohio State. And as you mentioned, there's going to be some guys moving on, which is for the best. Some guys literally didn't play or played only a handful of plays yesterday in the spring game. And when that happens, that's the coach's way of saying, guys, try to pack your gear and turn your playbook in and see the GM.
Yeah, I mean it's just modern college football with the portal. It's a double-edged sword. They process guys out by basically not playing them and ignoring them. So you get some of the guys that have 3-4 years and they don't look like they're ever going to play here, and you can get rid of them. And honestly, not to be too cold, but like I like that. There are some guys that I played with that had no chance of playing, and they acted that way. Once they figured out they'd been passed on the depth chart by a young guy, they kind of just shut it down and put the governor on the rest of their career, and they did like just enough to not get fired or get their scholarship pulled. But there were a lot of guys that could have helped us that didn't, just because they were lazy and they didn't want to work hard because they'd already been passed by younger guys. And now you just process them out of the program and they can head down to a max score or wherever and go try to play somewhere. But yeah, I think that this fantasy about there being some all-world tackle that enters the portal and comes walking in here, for one, we'd have to beat the big dogs. For two, he's going to cost at least $1 million in NIL money. So between those two things, it's going to take a miracle to get him here. But hey, that's just kind of the way it is. That's why you got to develop your own guys. You got to have a good culture, and again, you got to make sure that he's a good fit. Like, I think Davidson Igbenos has been an outstanding fit in that secondary room. I think that he's raised the level of all the guys, and they're ultra competitive, ultra talented. Again, that's a good fit. I mean, he seems like he's a great kid. I mean, the people I talk to in the Woody Hayes say that he's a great kid. He really put his head down. He worked, not an egomaniac, not an idiot. Because that's the thing, is when you bring in some of these kids, a lot of them have warts. They've got issues. They want a boatload of money, so then they're going to show up with, a new G-Wagon or something crazy. And I mean, that can really upset the apple cart of the locker room chemistry, because you're dealing with some kids that are young, they're sensitive, they think they have a shot to play, and then all of a sudden you bring in some guy and you have to promise him a starting job, and he might get here and stink, for all because you don't really know the kid. So again, unless he's like a bona fide first or second round tackle, I don't think it's even worth looking for it. I think that you could there's a lot of combinations out there. I think that George Fitzpatrick really played well. Like, I watched his film and I was really impressed by him. I think Josh Fryer is still more comfortable at right tackle than left tackle, which isn't uncommon. I think Donnie Jackson's still our best left tackle. I went back and watched his film from last year's Student Appreciation Day, and they kicked him out to left tackle a few times, and he was really good. So in my opinion, I just think that Donnie Jackson's the answer. But again, it's up to Justin Fry. I mean, it could be George Fitzpatrick. There's a long way to go. At this time last year, Grant Toutant was our second team right tackle. And, 2 years ago, we had DeJuan Jones was our second team right tackle, wasn't slated to start. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen between now and the first game of the year against Indiana. So it'll be really interesting. Nevada, were there any defensive players that stood out to you? Any guys that caught your eye? Like, again, I went and rewatched the tape. There were some guys that really looked good on film, especially in the interior. I think some people probably wouldn't have caught it unless you're really studying it in detail. But anyone catch your eye on defense?
Well, and one guy that played really fast and was just all over the place the entire game was Reed Carrico. I mean, he had himself a game. It was, yeah, I mean, we've talked about him. I mean, Reed Carrico could be pound for pound, the overall most athletic guy on the team. I mean, he's strong, he can run, and I've been talking about him. I've been talking about a potential move with him, to fullback, because he's so athletic, and you got to find a way to get him on the field in a crowded linebacker room. But boy, he made some plays from linebacker, and I know it's a spring game and everything, but you just saw the instincts, you saw the athleticism, and I was just really happy for the kid because he's a heck of a player. And you never want to put the whammy on anybody, but I hope he sticks around. I hope he doesn't portal out, because I think he could be a guy that can really help us down the road. And just think his instincts just make him so great. When you combine that with that superior athleticism, he had himself a ball game. And the second guy was Hero Canoe. He was a load on the interior line. Really a guy that was really tough to move. Was really using his hands well. I thought he had himself a terrific game as well. So, no, I thought we had some young guys, show out. And the defensive line, upon first watching it, it felt like they were kind of bum rushing the offensive line. But then when I went back and watched it a little bit more carefully, it wasn't quite as bad, on the rewatch. And be really interested to hear what your opinions were regarding the offensive line play, the good, the bad, the ugly, from your perspective as an All-American offensive line. What did you see?
Well, I think that, our guys still have to get better at using their hands, especially run fit wise. Our hands are too wide a lot. They're getting into our chest, which is something that you can fix. It takes a lot of effort. But again, I think Josh Fryer is more comfortable at right tackle than left tackle. I think that if Justin Fry could go back in time 1 year ago, he would have moved him to left tackle last year, so that when they were running all the second team offensive line stuff, Josh should be getting all those turns and all those sets as a left tackle instead of right tackle. Because basically, like last year, it was kind of a waste because Zen was our backup left tackle and Josh was the backup right tackle. In reality, now that they've switched it, they missed a whole year of skill development on that side. I mean, you can still catch it up, but it's tougher. There's times where Josh is a little late off the mark. But I'm going to bring a couple plays down actually as we're doing this. There were some guys that really flashed. I thought Luke Montgomery really looked nice. I mean, he's a guy that's got a lot of ability, a lot of talent. I think he's a guy that should be in the right tackle mix as soon as camp starts, and just give him a couple turns at the ones. Because again, the thing is, you have to evaluate him against Jack Sawyer and JT2 Malone. It's not the same when you're blocking, the freshmen or the young guys that aren't the same level. You have to get turns versus the two really good ends, and he's probably not ready for those two guys yet, but he can be. But you have to kind of raise that bar up competition wise. So I pulled a couple of snaps from the game. I wanted the good on good stuff. I wanted it when JT2 Malone was still in the game, and Jack Sawyer. So I'm gonna dial this up real quick. So, again, this is a spring game, so these guys can't blitz. It's basic stuff. It's funny though, because they can't blitz, but they actually show blitz. So they're showing a double A gap, which is kind of like a cover zero look, where normally you'd have everybody manned up across the board. Or we call this no deep. But that they have to bail. They're literally not allowed to blitz. So they both double bail. So you got Sawyer and Tigra. You got Fryer and JT. Those are the matchups you want to see when you're evaluating the tackles, especially. And they do a nice job. I mean, they hang in there. Again, JT might be the best end in the country, and Josh does a really good job on him here. He gets good inside hand on him, turns him, hangs in there. And again, you don't have to block these guys for 85 seconds. You got to block them for about a 3 count, and the ball's gone. That's the beauty of playing offense. On the right side, Tigra does a really nice job. I think that, if I worked with him, I'd have him set a little bit more vertical versus this 3 technique, because he does get beat on some twists later on. Because a guy like Jack Sawyer and Mike Hall, the guys that are really sharp, when they see Tigra diving out like this, they're going to run some games where he gets picked and he gets in, and it makes it a lot harder. But Tigra does a nice job here on Jack. He kind of absorbs him. Again, he really has to work his hands, because he's just kind of clamping him here. And if this guy's a little stronger, I mean, he's going to put you into onto the surface of the moon. But he literally, he's a big, strong kid. But if he gets his hands just a little more dialed in, because that's something that he does in run and pass blocking, gets his hands a little wide. Matt Jones is really good here by himself. Donnie's just kind of, got the double team, the easy one. Mike Hall is awesome. He really had a nice game. But again, this is, and for the passing development, here's our boy 18, Marvin, the best player in the country, just running a little flag right here, wide open, easy money. And again, that's a good football play. That's, I'm going to get it to the next play, but I just think that, there's a wrap right there of our tackles handling 2 of the top 10 defensive ends in the country. Cause I think JT and Jack are probably both in the top 7-ish, I'd say. If you look about the national defensive ends, I think Jack Sawyer was grossly out of position last year. And I think that this year is going to be really good. But I mean, Nevada, there's one snap, good on good. They're not blocking the walk-ons or the third teamers, but what do you think? I mean, I think that these guys have a chance to be pretty good.
Yeah, no, I left the game on first watch. I had some concerns. I still have some concerns, but it's been alleviated, a lot by just kind of watching what we were doing, how vanilla the sets were, and how little constraints and other things that we were running for the defense. I mean, the defense was really had an advantage in these types of situations. So, look, we're gonna have to feel bad about something, because if the offense just blew the defense off the ball, then we're complaining that our defense is awful. And so if I have to pick my poison, it's going to be, wow, I'm not sure about who the right tackle to me is not, totally intuitive or totally obvious. These are high class problems for Ohio State. You have to have some sort of issues, and I'm not afraid. I'm much like you. I'm really, really, really high on George Fitzpatrick. I think that he can be a heck of a player. And, I know I put up a nugget today from the second Wiseman. Second Wiseman really thinks that guy's a potential future NFL first round pick. And yes, that's what I said. Potential NFL first round pick for a guy who really hasn't even played a snap yet for Ohio State. That's how highly regarded he thinks of George. So, I'm excited about seeing him, and I think Fry will find some combinations that work, and I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, I think Fitzpatrick reminds me a lot of Taylor Decker. He's not 6'8", he's a little shorter, but his sets probably like better as a sophomore than Taylor's did. They look smoother. Obviously Taylor got baptized by Khalil Mack, but he's in like year 10 in the NFL coming up, and he's made $100 million off 3 contracts or whatever he's at now. So, TD was a kid that people were ready to throw him off the top of Ohio Stadium after his first career start. But I knew the kid was a good player, and it's just he just ran into a buzzsaw, which happens sometimes. This is another nice rep. Mike Hall is unbelievable on this snap, but Tigra and Jack, you got Fryer and JT Tuimoloau. Again, good on good. Josh, at the top right here, he's got to get that hand going a little bit. But again, this is good. I mean, you shut down JT. Again, I think Tigra, I would set a little bit more vertically. He's got to get the hands going a little quicker, but clamps Jack. This is kind of like what the Bengals used to teach with Willie Anderson, where they just clamp these guys. But again, the tackles that are the worst tackles in the entire universe, they lock down 2 really good defensive ends right here, and we get the ball out. So, again, if you get rid of the ball quick, it doesn't matter how good the ends are. And that's something that I think these guys get frustrated with, is that there's some really, really good quick game that you can use to help your O-line where they don't have to block for 8 seconds. You don't have to run everything being 4 verticals. But the play I want to watch is Mike Hall, because Mike Hall, if we can get this out of him, so he attacks Carson Hinsman's snap hand, and this is really tough. He knows that, in all likelihood, with how this is set up, Donnie's going to be helping on this side. These guys are both one up just based on, because we were running the most basic pass protections on earth. So he's got to get Carson's snap hand with his hands real quick and swipe him. And this is something Larry Johnson drills like crazy. And like right here, he's got his hand and his hips are even. And, if our back, who's trying to release, doesn't run into him, I mean, this is a sack in about a millisecond. And again, this isn't, Carson Hinsman is a young guy developing, but this is a lot more Mike Hall than it is Carson Hinsman. Like, I think Mike Hall, his explosion is as good as we've had at the defensive tackle position, just for what he does. And it knows he's really effective, because generally when you think of a nose guard, you think of a big fat guy. Nice catch by G. Scott here. Again, this is a guy that we featured last year in the spring game, but I think that he's an athletic guy. It'd be nice to see if we can get some stuff out of him this year. But, again, I think Mike Hall's, you see his motor there, you see the speed. The technique is growing, which is something that's really good to see, just because I think he's the guy that could be the difference maker. And again, when you think of a nose guard, you usually think of a big fat like Gilbert Brown or Terrence Cody or one of those big fat guys. But I think it's better to have a guy like Mike Hall who can get one up against the center and go across his face like he does there, because that's really tough. And as soon as you beat him, you're right on the quarterback, and you can disrupt the throw. You could get a hit. I mean, it's just, they got to account for that with how they do the slide protections. But yeah, Nevada, I think that there was a lot of good stuff yesterday. I think that some people after spring games have these, these notions where the offense stinks or the defense stinks or the O-line stinks or whatever stinks, but it's just kind of, it is what it is. I love watching, kind of the battles and the games, and and Jack and JT, they won some too. It wasn't like it was just all domination by the tackles, but they're really good. So I mean, it's just part of the progression of the offensive line. But yeah, what do you think? We watched 2 clips, broke it down. I don't want to break the whole game down just because it'll get a little monotonous. But your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, no, I think you're like you said, you're going to have concerns depending on who wins what. It's either going to be offense, it's just going to be the defense, it's going to be the special team. Somebody has to win, and in a zero-sum game, that means somebody has to lose as well. So no, I'm not as concerned. I think if we're having an honest conversation, it's just you, me, and the hundreds of listeners. If they ask what is my number one concern about the team, it's quarterback. I mean, my
Oh
number
yeah.
one concern about is McCord, and uh, am I greatly concerned? No, not greatly concerned. I mean, do I think McCord can play? Yeah, I absolutely think he can play. I think it would defy all logic to have a quarterback that's been here multiple years, who's a 5-star coming out of high school, who's under Ryan Day's system, that he couldn't play. That would just be shocking. And I look back on some of the epic, spring game performances last year. C.J. Stroud was not great in the spring game, and Justin Fields 4 for 17 will forever be etched in spring game lore. So I think, do I think Kyle will be fine? Yeah. Or if he's not, you know what? Devin Brown will be fine. So I think we'll be fine at the quarterback position. But frankly, my concerns go quarterback, place kicker, right tackle. And those are really my concerns, and in that order, and none of them are great concerns. None of them are like, 5 alarm fire. Last year, cornerback was 5 alarm fire. Like we had problems because we just didn't have enough guys that could cover. These are kind of high class problems. Assuming that the quarterback can play, and I think they'll be able to find at least one capable quarterback out of the two.
Yeah, and for me, I agree with you on the quarterback play. I think that part of it is we've just been so spoiled at the quarterback position. Even going back to I mean, you can go all the way back to Troy. You can go Troy, Terrell, JT, Braxton, JT. I mean, you look at the quarterbacks we've had through the years. I mean, we've had really, really good all Big Ten level quarterback play. And can we get that this year? And again, there's no reason not to, given I think this is the deepest skill rooms that we've ever had in the history of Ohio State between the running backs, receivers, tight ends. It's the best I've ever seen. So, the weapons are there. I don't think that there's anybody in the conference that can cover these guys, but it's up to the quarterback to deliver the ball and not get shook. Again, I think that it's just part of the thing. But when you've got Marvin and Emeka, I mean, your life is incredibly easy. And then you add Carnell Tate, who I think should be the third starting wide receiver. I mean, that's about as good as it gets. Probably best trio in the country. So, but yeah, I agree with you. I really am not concerned about the offensive line at all. I think these guys are going to have to get the job done. I think there's a lot of ways you can help them get rid of the ball faster, mix up your protections. There's a lot of mechanisms you can do to really help the offensive line out. And honestly, like we're not going to be playing Jack Sawyer and JT every week in the shoe. Let's just be real. We're not playing the world beaters every week. So they're going to have 3 good games to get in before they go to Notre Dame, where they have to play on the road. 3 games in the shoe where they get their feet wet a little bit, kind of get the kinks out. And again, I think it's going to be a really competitive Springs. I think the best part, if you want to, look at the glass half full, is that none of these O-line guys locked down a job other than probably Donnie and Matt Jones. So the other 3 spots, I think, are going to have great competition. Makes guys sharpen their pencil a little bit, really be locked in for winter or for summer conditioning, locked in for fall camp. Jacob James is coming back at center. And again, like the players know who the players are. And Luke Whippler said at the combine, Jacob James probably going to be the starting center. So who knows? I mean, that could throw a monkey wrench into the whole situation. We might get a portal guy, we might not. I really don't care if we do or not because we're not going to get Paris Johnson in the portal. So, the worst thing you can do is bring in a portal guy who's a total turd. And, most of the portal guys we brought in from the O-line haven't been impact guys other than Jonah Jackson. So it's going to be interesting to see how much fishing we do. I wouldn't be surprised if we went after a D tackle. I don't think we're going to have to bear Alexander from Georgia because he's going to cost a fortune. And also, I just, when you do that, how does it affect Mike Hall? How does it affect Tyleek? How does it affect Ty Hamilton? Again, there's a ripple effect when you bring in a guy who had 2 sacks in the championship and he's guaranteed to start. So, again, that you got to always look at the law of unintended consequences. And when you deal in the transfer portal, would I like to add the kid from Georgia? Absolutely. He had 2 sacks against us he had 2 sacks in the national championship game against TCU. So I'd love to have that guy, but can we write him a big enough NIL deal? Does giving him that big NIL deal completely screw up the locker room, screw up the dynamic of the team? How is he as a kid? I don't know why on earth you'd leave the Georgia Bulldogs right now after you just won 2 straight national championships, but that raises a big red flag to me just because, you'd think they got it cooking pretty good down there right now. And all of a sudden you just up and leave because you're not going to go somewhere that's a better program than Georgia right now. So it's just one of those interesting things. We're gonna do take a little look at Max LeBlanc. We did this last night for a little bit when I did my solo show, but with Nevada here, Max LeBlanc, tight end, by way of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, Baylor School, Chattanooga, 4-star tight end. Thoughts on him, Nevada? Big athletic dude. I'm gonna toss his film on real quick, but what do you think of this bonanza that we're of commits we're getting all of a sudden? This has been a crazy little run we've been on.
Yeah, well, Ohio State's really made kind of a commitment to, refocus their efforts on guys and frankly on kids that weren't really dominated by the NIL game. And so when you do that, you're apt to get more, quicker commits because the kids aren't bidding you off against other schools. And Ohio State's getting the kids that they want. So I look, we came within a field goal winning the national championship. We've got one of the hottest coaches in college football. We're a high flying offense, and we're a name brand. So this success doesn't, we've been on a 30-year run of success. So this doesn't surprise me at all, and it's just kind of a pleasant distraction from some of the less great news that goes on out there. This certainly has been a great run.
Absolutely. We're gonna take some questions now. This is a great question, RK. Could they move Donnie to left tackle and Fryer back to right? Any decent backup guards? I think they absolutely could do that. I think that's kind of the final option if the pass pro doesn't improve. But I think Donnie would be our best left tackle on the team. But we've got some guys. You want to rep them. We know Donnie can play guard. He was Paris's backup left tackle last year for a little bit in the spring. But again, I think they're trying to have one of these guys win the job. I think that they want to try Josh at left tackle. Again, I think that the fact that he's played right tackle the last 2 years, he's much more comfortable there. He played left guard in the 2021 spring and fall camp, but you got to figure out what's the best combination. I think that Donnie's versatility is a big add when you look at the transfer portal, because if there is a really good guard in there and you could add him and then put Donnie next to him at left tackle, that adds to the equation. Because right now it's kind of tough because Justin Fry basically wanted to keep Matt Jones and Donnie as the first team guards all spring, which I totally understand. But when it comes to getting the best five, sometimes that shakes out in the middle of camp. Again, 2021, 4 or 5 practices in, they decided to move Thayer Munford to guard, and he'd never played guard in his entire life. I'm very tight with Thayer. He's been playing football since 7th grade, never played guard. He's always been a tackle. So his senior year, when he comes back for his 5th year, they decided to move him into guard. So again, anything is possible. I think that that was a move to get DeJuan Jones on the field. You just couldn't have DeJuan sitting watching for another season with his big talent, and you had to put Harrison at guard because he was the most talented player maybe on the entire team, and can't have him watching for a year. And Nick Petit Frere was really good, so they moved Nick from right to left. They moved Thayer from left tackle or to left guard. DeJuan off the bench to right tackle. So I mean, hey, when you're on offensive lineman, man, you got to be an offensive lineman. You got to be ready to play any position. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but that's just kind of how it rolls. And when you get to the NFL, you really better do that. Unless you're a lockdown number 1 overall type left tackle, everybody else has to play every position, basically. You got to play both sides, both tackle and guard, center. That's just kind of the way of the world once you get to the league. But that's a fantastic question. And I think that's something that could easily happen. What else we got? But yeah, I like this kid's film. It's going to be interesting because we're going to take him and the Glenville kids. So the tight end room is going to be done for the year. Something that was interesting is that Orlando Pace's kid was not at the spring game, which was kind of surprising to me, given that he's a 2025 tight end. He's been to Wisconsin. He's been to Nebraska recently on visits. So it's interesting to see what's going on there. I would assume that he's an Ohio State lean, just given what his dad was, and he's a full scholarship guy, and his brother's on the team as a walk-on, but he was not in attendance at the game. But again, he's probably been to Ohio State 1,000 times, so I get it if you wanted to go elsewhere and check out some other spring games. Let me see what else we got. But yeah, I like this kid's film. I think he's good. I think getting the running back was good. It'll be interesting to see who's next after that. Again, I think it's time to take some shots at some big time offensive tackles. This isn't a great year for tackles nationally. There aren't many top drawer guys that are like the Laramie Tunsil, Paris Johnson caliber that are like day one freshman left tackle starters. But it'll be interesting to see how how we end up. Because we already got 4 in the fold, and then you got Jordan Seaton potentially. Landry Gumbert. We got like a couple guys that are still kind of on the radar, but it's gonna be interesting to see how that goes. Nevada live from the drag strip.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, I like this kid's film. Again, he's got to gain some weight. He's a slight dude, but he's a good receiving tight end. But I don't think he's a Jelani Thurman type. But I think he's a good. He looks like Nick Vanette on film. Honestly, when I'm watching his high school film, it looks like Nick's film when he was at Westerville Central. But your thoughts on him, Nevada? Good take.
Yeah, I mean, look, Ohio State's excited about him, and Ohio State's having some success with the tight end position, having some success, and terms of attracting these big athletic tight ends and guys. As they fully more integrate them into the offense, we're going to start seeing more and more guys like this. And so I think this is the beginning of a tight end run for Ohio State. So it's nothing but good news.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the tight ends have been going great. Oh, this is a video that I've been wanting to. Let me see how the quality is on this. So they did a little kind of behind the scenes pro day video. I'm gonna break this thing down because this was kind of cool. So there's Monica, that's Paris's mom. Just kind of takes you behind the scenes of pro day. Paris when he was a little kid. It's a really it's an interesting day when you're going through pro day because here they show the scouts measuring. Everyone gets their hand measured, their arm length measured, obviously height and weight. But it's kind of a anxious day. Paris is a guy. It's interesting that he didn't work out and do. This is the big one, the wingspan for the tackles and for the offensive, the tackles and defensive ends. Obviously, Paris is he's like a pterodactyl essentially. So, and Dewan had the longest arm length in the history of the Senior Bowl, I believe. So I mean, you get these big long arm tackles, man. It really makes their life a lot better. But PJ just did individual work. I thought it was smart. He did not bench. Here, obviously, they do your little measurement for your height, which is really, it's always interesting to see when you actually get an official measurement. They don't have your shoes on, but it's just kind of cool. They show these guys back there kicking it. This is in the weight room at the Woody Hayes, cheering the guys on, doing the 225. I actually did that at the combine. I didn't do it at Pro Day, but you kind of it takes you behind the scenes to see kind of the juice that goes on at Pro Day because, not everybody's like Paris. A lot of these guys are fighting for their lives. They're doing all they can to try to make it and there's Justin Fry talking a little bit about what PJ's doing, but Nevada, yeah, the pro day stuff, there's a lot of anxiety, but there's also a sense of finality once it's over with. And, when these guys were done, man, I bet they can't wait to go have a nice dinner and celebrate the fact that the process is basically over. They don't have to work out anymore. There's no more combine. There's Matt Jones supporting them. And, they show PJ doing this drill. This is unbelievably smooth. This is like one of the ones where the NFL Network just kept replaying how smooth he was, how big he was, how fluid he is. It was again always going to be a top 15 pick. No way he gets past the Steelers at 16, in my opinion, but I think he'll probably be gone long before that. But Nevada, just your thoughts and watch a little bit of this pro day, a little bit of the pro day workout.
Well, it flashes me back to when you were doing it and you had those stubby little arms and you could that helped you on the bench press, man. You did 36 or 38 or what it was in the bench press, but when they
Mm-hmm.
measured your arms, was it like embarrassing having arms that short when they did that?
What's funny
Did
is
they
like
use like a child? Did
I
they
don't
use
even
like a
I don't even
child's measuring
remember
tape for your?
I don't even remember how long my arms were. I don't even I don't remember that being like a negative, but it could have been. I don't know. I mean, obviously they're not as long as Paris or Dewan's, but those guys are 6'7". But I think Ryan Day's done a really good job with Pro Day because he has the position coaches for Ohio State run the drills, which is really, really nice because most teams have scouts run the drills or GMs or whoever wants to run them. So the players really have no idea what the drills are, but you see Justin Fry running the drills here, and these guys they've run through this 2 or 3 times already. So they know exactly what's coming. Exactly. Here's a O-line coach doing a couple drills at the end, but most of the heavy lifting is done by the position coaches. And that's something that's unique to Ohio State. So I usually study the draft. I like watching the draft. It's a really cool deal, but most of the time, there's one of the area scouts or a regional scout will run the drills. But I love what we do at Ohio State now because that really makes it, I think, easier. I think there's a lot more familiarity and it gives the guys the best chance to put the best foot forward because I think that's really it's really important. Trying to think, let's throw some Sam Williams Dixon on. So he's our running back commit. He's at Pickerington now. We'll toss his film on it real quick. So he's a local kid, long rumored to be a Buckeye. Not much of a surprise here. We watched this tape before, but he's a shifty kid. He's a kid that I think is going to be kind of like a utility knife type guy. Can return kicks, which is nice. But it's going to be interesting to see how we use him. I assume we're going to go after a second running back in this class. So you get the local Columbus kid, and then you can maybe go after a big fish after that. But what do you think of his tape, Nevada? Because he just transferred to one of the Pickerington schools, but he's a good-looking player.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like those slasher types for running backs, and I think, like you said, super versatile. And I just look at a kid like Xavier Johnson and how Xavier Johnson comes to Ohio State as a walk on. Nobody even really knew who he was.
I think we lost Nevada for a second. But yeah, like I said, this is a kid that you watch his tape. I think he's a guy that he's good to get in the fold now, and then you can go after one of the big national fish. Yeah, pick North. Apologize, I wasn't sure it was Central or North, but it's a guy that he can really do some damage. And again, I get excited about every recruit. It's like when we took Brandon Sane and Boom Heron in the same class. Brandon was the guy that everybody was excited about because he was like a 10, 500 meter guy and all these state track things. But Boom Heron ended up being a more productive running back, and he was a guy that people probably weren't as excited about. But Boom had a nice little run in the NFL. Really good dude, really good podcast guy now. So it's always good to get excited about these guys because you never know who's gonna turn into a Mine Williams or a guy that could really be like a big contributor down the road. And we have Nevada Buck back. Nevada, you're talking about Xavier Williams. So go.
I was talking to Xavier Johnson about how Xavier was, so valuable to Ohio State this year, and this commit reminds me of, this has a lot of the same attributes. Kind of a versatile kid that can return kicks, can catch the ball, can run with the ball, and kind of a slasher. And yeah, I think, like you said, it's not a traditional running back type of commitment, but I think OSU is showing they can use kids like this, and I'm excited about the commitment.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah, Brass Tacks, that is a great question. I don't know who is a Jelani Thurman. So he is a beast. Like in terms of the tight ends I had, it's funny, I had to just look up, I was like, did I misspell his name or forget his name? But no, I knew it was Jelani Thurman. But yeah, I like this kid's tape. Again, he's a guy that he's a local kid, get him in the fold. That's kind of the new strategy. Like we were trying to get, 18 Ohio kids or kids that'll jump in the boat now, and then you can go kind of whale hunting across the rest of the summer, and really dial it into some of the big NIL guys, and that's something that I think that we're going to try to take swings at as these collectives keep popping up and merge and whatever. Like I think that they're going to play a critical role in going after some of these big guys because the numbers are substantial. I think it cost us some really good players last year, especially a couple defensive ends, but that's just the way of the world. But it's good to get some kids in the fold. I think that there's some strength in numbers when these kids can kind of recruit kids. A lot of these kids are super active on Twitter. They're super active as guys that are trying to just get their get their class enhanced to make it the number one rated class. These kids take a lot of pride in that. They want to go. They're all excited to get Aaron Nolan. They're all excited to announce the next commitment. And the coolest thing is that JJ Smith is kind of the ringleader of it. And he's the highest rated kid in the country, best receiver. Maybe the highest rated receiver we've ever taken, maybe since Julian. I don't know if Julian Fleming was number one overall, but right now JJ is number two overall behind Dylan Raiola. But that's pretty substantial stuff, pretty heady stuff. But yeah, like I said, I like this kid's film. It's gonna be interesting to see what he does at Pick North, just because he's a beast. Yeah, but guys, so we'll take a couple questions here as we wrap this one up. But it's good. Again, I like when these guys play corner too, man. Because I always tell these guys if they can play corner, it's like JoJo Trader when I was talking to Brett Guess and those guys. He wants to play receiver. I'm like, dude, go play corner. If you can play corner, you'll always have a job in the league. If you're a good corner, like there aren't enough good corners on this earth to cover these really good receivers. And playing receivers is so much easier than corner. It's like what Jim Tressel talked about with Chris Gamble when he switched him over to cornerback. Like Chris played 10 years in the league and made a boatload of money, and it was one of the best corners that we've ever had at the universities. Won us a national championship checking Andre Johnson the whole game. So well, let's see what questions we got. Yeah, Nevada, what are your thoughts on the recruiting? We're on a little bit of a heater right now. Kind of excited about some of these guys. I think we'll probably get a few more guys in the fold, and then it's going to be camp season, offer season. But yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting going forward. What are your thoughts on the recruiting heater we're on?
Yeah, well, I just think we've got we've got two or three more guys that are ready to pop, and we're on recruiting commitment watch. I think the kids are doing a better job of communicating each other, spreading these things out, and I think Ohio State's it's as epic as the recruiting's been lately. It's about to get better.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think that you can take some swings at these tackles. It'll be interesting to see how many spots open up with the portal. That's going to be kind of the big thing that's going to happen this week. Is you've seen kids from Georgia and Bama hit the portal. I'm sure we'll lose a couple, but it's going to be really interesting. Like I'm really excited to see what goes on. So, what question you guys got? I'm looking in here. We got a ton of you guys in here.
Well,
Uh,
Kirk, what do you think about again Marvin Harrison portaling to USC like that? I mean, how bad is that going to be for Ohio
I
State this
I'm
year when that
telling you,
happens?
man, they offered him a fortune. So, but the thing is Marvin Senior made so much money that he deflected it, and when you're in a system that's that good, I think that you don't, like I don't know why you. Well, in my opinion, I just think that you don't want to upset the apple cart. You're only gonna. I mean, Marvin Harrison realistically is going to be here for like 7 more months. So why do you or 8 more months? So why do you want to upset everything? Move to Los Angeles, learn a new offense. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. Obviously, the only draw SC has is they have a bona fide, absolute, ultra superstar quarterback. That's it. Lincoln Riley knows how to get receivers drafted, but I mean, he went after. He is a snake now, man. He went after Emeka. He went after Marvin. I heard the whole story actually yesterday, talking to some really high up people at Ohio State, and they were paying big bucks to get those two guys to come out there and get Caleb Williams. Because again, that's kind of how it is now. It's dog eat dog, rat eat rat in the world of NIL. And these guys have agents. These guys have backroom brokers. They're always, the coaches are all 7 steps removed from the process, so they can never be caught in it. But that's just kind of how it is now. So it's, I don't think he's gonna go. I mean, obviously he's not gonna go anywhere. But again, there's gonna be a point in the new world of NIL where guys like Marvin Harrison, not Marvin Harrison himself, but a guy who's like a number one overall draft pick type receiver, will hit the portal like after the season, after sophomore year, and just go on the block and just see how much does someone want me to pay me for my last year of eligibility. Do you want to pay me $5 million, $10 million? Like that's going to happen at some point. At some point, like like last year, CJ Stroud, Jackson Smith, and Jigba could have left after that Rose Bowl and said, "Okay, who wants to pay me? Texas A&M, Bama, whoever, one of these collectives, and we'll come as a battery, and we will, come together. You guys pay us both $10 million or whatever it is, and it's going to happen. I'm telling you, like, because the D tackle from Georgia who had 2 sacks in the championship game, hitting the portal when he's probably going to be the starting D tackle for the 2-time national champions, like. It's a straight cash grab. I can't imagine what else it could possibly be because you're not going to go to a better program than Georgia, where you already know you're going to win. You're going to kill everybody. So, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see when that happens. Nevada, do you think that could happen?
Well, I think it's inevitable. I think it's inevitable. I
Yeah.
think there's an arms race that's going on that. I think I mean I look at other aspects of things. I mean look at USC. USC goes out and adds Cliff Kingsbury to their staff, and we had Keegan Bailey or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, it does seem like we're playing a different game than some of these other schools. Than
I don't know.
Lincoln Riley, he's not messing around. Nick Saban, he ain't messing around with this thing, and we're a little bit on the friends and family plan. I'm not sure we're hiring the best and the brightest, and but Lincoln Riley's not messing around out there in USC, man. To get an ex NFL head coach to come in as your quarterback quality control intern or whatever it is,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good deal.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, it's. I think that's a huge get. I think he's a guy that, if you're a young quarterback and you can get Kingsbury and Lincoln Riley as your QB coaches, and they've coached some Pat Mahomes and Kyler Murray and all these guys that they've combined to coach over the last 8 to 10 years. I mean, it's an impressive roster, man. I'm telling you. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays. If that becomes maybe the best place for a quarterback to go. It'd be interesting to see if that affects Dylan Raiola at all. I mean, I know they've got Malachi Nelson, who's a superstar. And he's right behind Caleb Williams. So it's a team to watch out for, man. Because again, they are not shy about throwing the money around, and they're not shy about trying to poach other people's players. And it's Los Angeles, it's Hollywood. There's major agencies out there. A lot of these kids like to sign with CAA, athletes first. I mean, they're based out there, so there's just a whole new ball of wax to all this stuff. But yeah, Laurinaitis' impact when he hits the road. This is something that is one of the kind of the undercurrents to me through spring so far. This guy has landed Peyton Pierce. He beat Oklahoma, beat Texas, beat all these fantastic schools on him as a GA. Like when these kids are committing to Ohio State as linebackers and defensive players, or when they're visiting, they're posting photos with James Laurinaitis, and he's a grad assistant. Not even a full-time guy, but he's the guy that they're all like focusing in on. He's the guy developing the relationships. Nevada, what are we supposed to do with James Laurinaitis? Like, I mean, everyone knows how I feel about James Laurinaitis. Like, I couldn't speak more highly of a guy. How do we make him a full-time head coach?
Well, I think it's just going to happen naturally. I think he knows that. That's the commitment that's been made. And you look at kids like Gabe Powers and Reed Carrico and Cody Simon, they're all gleaming onto him. And what it's enabled Knowles to do, while Knowles is the linebackers coach, it's allowing Knowles to take kind of a step back and take a broader view of the defense. And I think it's only going to pay dividends for Ohio State. And much like they're asking Ryan Day to take a little broader thing and be the CEO of the entire team and not just the play caller. I think it's having a similar impact on the linebackers in particular and in the defense in general. So no, I think I think it's a positive move, but I think I just have to be patient because that's going to happen. That's the commitment that's been made to James, and he'll get out there. And in the meantime, he's already doing work, so it's a win-win-win.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I think he's got no ceiling on his coaching career. I really do. He's got to get to be one of the top 10 coaches. I think that he should have been named the special teams coordinator, but I digress. We extended another guy for 2 years. Not sure why, because I haven't heard anybody talk about him in recruiting. But James Laurinaitis is a guy that you guys better watch out for, because if you guys think Brian Hartline's good, James is going to be in that same mold in terms of being a closer, just an all-out effort. Really, really sharp young coach. Like I said, I think he's going to be a guy that'll be in the mix to be a head coach down the line, particularly even at Ohio State after Ryan Day's done. But
The only thing that concerns me about James is his propensity for driving his ATV late at night, and stuff like that on like Saturday morning after spring game, stuff like that. So that's my only concern about him. I'm going to put it out there right now, and got some concerns about it. Hope he keeps it on the road.
Have you driven an ATV before?
I have. I actually have.
Have you?
Yes.
I don't think I ever have. I've driven a lawnmower. I don't think I've driven an ATV. But they look fun. They look really fast. I mean, some
They're
of these
easy
things
they're easy to roll over though.
are they really?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
because some of them have like pretty wide tracks. I guess you'd have to be going pretty quick. But again, I don't. That is what it is. But yeah, I'm watching. I got the spring game right here. So what's up?
Have you ever been on an ATV at like 3:30 in the morning, completely hammered? Have you ever had that situation before?
No, I
No.
don't think I've ever
Okay.
ridden on an ATV. I've ridden on a golf cart. But
I was on a
I
snowmobile.
think
I
that's
was on a
it.
snowmobile one time with like one of those snow machines, and we were driving and it hit the side of the hill and just flipped it right over on my head. So I imagine ATV is kind of a similar thing.
Yeah, that happened to some celebrity recently. It got pretty screwed up. Yeah, but another guy that actually looks pretty good. And again, this is a guy that's going to be a completely off the wall guy. But Andy Gird's kid, Patrick Gird, could be the new Mitch Rossi, because that kid plays really hard. He really plays hard, and he's the guy that they're using it as that Mitch Rossi kind of fullback-ish role. So, his former walk-on, his dad was a captain, was a good player at Ohio State. So he's a name to watch. Because like again, I had to look down. Some of these guys you have to check the roster to see who they are, and it's just kind of fun when you're like, who's that guy? He keeps flashing, and you want to make sure that you're on top of some of this stuff. But yeah, there were some guys that really did some good stuff in this game. I think that I'm excited to see Brandon Inniss get to campus and see him rocking and rolling. I think this is the last time that the team's going to practice without him on the field. I think he's going to have absolutely no limit, no ceiling. I think it's going to be fantastic. But yeah, again, like I've seen some bad ATV wrecks, so again, I'm just glad Brian's hopefully okay. Again, they said it's not life threatening. That doesn't mean you can't break your legs or break appendages or whatever. So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what we do with the. What about Sonny Styles? This will be our last question as we're getting close to an hour. Nevada, what do you do with Sonny Styles? Because he was out there balling again yesterday. Clearly one of the top 11 guys. Talked to one of the highest ranking guys at Ohio State. He said he's clearly one of the top 11 on defense. Where would you put Sonny Styles if you were Jim Knowles?
it's really not that complicated. Whatever. I mean, I think we're getting people get caught up on his terminology, and it's like, is he the nickel? Is he the bandit? Is he the adjuster? Is he a third corner? Is he a third safety? Is he a third linebacker? It When you run the 4-2-5, and you know who the four are, and you know the two are, and you know who the other four defense backs are, he's number five. That's who he is, and he'll crowd the line on running plays, and he'll drop back in coverage on passing plays, and they'll blitz him. He's a very effective blitzer. I think that's the role for him. I think that's where they're going to play him. And you saw it. You saw guys like that. Guys like that just make plays. Sonny Styles make plays. C.J. Hicks was making plays all over the field. And not to reverse the conversation around, but that was the thing that gave me the biggest concern about McCord was the almost pick sixes that he threw because we had some guys that were sitting on it, and CJ almost had a couple. I mean, he could have had at least two interceptions go right through his hands, and I just think guys like that have got to find the field because we need more playmakers, and those guys make plays.
Yeah. And plus, guys like that could be 3 and out too. I mean, those are two guys that they have a big junior year, man. You're going to enjoy them for 1 year, and sayonara, they'll be going to the league. So I think you got to get something out of him, man. I mean, Sonny's kind of like that Paris Johnson where you got to find a spot for him. If you got to put him a superstar left tackle at right guard for a year, then so be it. I mean, Jonathan Ogden played guard his first year in the NFL. One of the best tackles in the history of football, 6'9", 350 pounds. They put him in at guard. So, when you're a superstar, they just got to find a place for you to play. But I think Sonny eventually grows into being a well linebacker. I think after this year, when Tommy and Steele move on, he's our starting well linebacker. This seems like with his progression and how big he's getting now, I don't know how you stop that. But again, I think that he's a downhill player. He's nasty, plays hard, he's not scared of anything. So I think that the sky's the limit. I think Kyle was staring some guys down. Like that's something that he's gonna have to work on. I'm sure that when they're watching his eyes in film, it's going to be something that Ryan Day is going to be all over him on because Ryan Day is not for the faint of heart when it comes to coaching a quarterback, and I've heard that firsthand. But yeah, this is a good show. Nevada, anything to wrap this thing up? Any final thoughts as we close down spring ball and we move towards camp season?
Couple. One is really excited to see how they use Chip, and they use him in kind of a true two back type of set, which we really haven't seen much at Ohio State. But I just think he gives you so much versatility as a blocker, obviously as a runner, as a receiver. Would love to see what they could do when they run those two back sets because I just think he's going to get the defense fits. And secondly, on a related but different topic, for anybody that's listening out there, that's even if you're not a gambler, I would say you're a gambler, but if you're a person that has a phone and access to a gambling website, we are absolutely giving away free money. Or we're basically giving away the site for free because you can make so much money just betting the MMA bets that we're giving away here on Buckeye Scoop that you can pay for your annual in about one UFC card. We're on a heater right now, 10 consecutive cards right now where we're making money. So if you like free money, join the Scoop, log on to the thing, and just start making money because like I said, for the people that live in Ohio where you've got access to all the sports books, you're literally sitting on a gold mine. We're literally offering you a money machine, and for all your Buckeye Scoop people and all the people that aren't a Buckeye Scoop, take advantage of it because money machines don't always last forever, but it's cranking out the money right now.
I totally agree. It's been a blast, and shout out Dagestan Poppy, man. You can check his odds. He has been on a 13-month heater. The syndicate that's covering the UFC and all the MMA cards right now. It is. We got some guys doing some major work on our site. So if you guys are gamblers, like I said, you'll get that $12.99 back real quick. You'll get that $139 for the year back real quick if you just tail what we've been doing action wise. It's been really cool. So. Gonna wrap this thing, guys. Appreciate you guys. As always, if you enjoyed this, give us a like, click subscribe. As always, we appreciate you guys. We have so much fun. Just rocking out with you guys all night, taking your questions. Love you guys tuning in. Love the feedback. Shout out where you're from. As always, I want to hear it. I love that. I want to know where you guys are watching from. It's always super cool to see how we're growing, how we're expanding. It's been a blast. Again, I read all your comments. I love the feedback, good and bad. It always helps me enhance the show and make it better. So thank you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hope you guys had a great time watching this show. Uh, I am about to jump on BuckeyeScoop.com. I have a ton of stuff I'm about to unload on. Really good stuff. So I hope you guys join us on BuckeyeScoop.com. If you are a humongous Ohio State fan, that needs to be your new home. It's the number one message board for Ohio State sports. Super, super high level people on there. Saw a bunch of them in the Huntington Club yesterday. Some really big time people. You'd be stunned at who subscribes to Buckeye Scoop. And it's really cool. And I appreciate all you guys that do. So thank you guys as always. If you are listening on the audio podcast, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Music, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you're subscribing. We are uploading. And if we aren't, write in the comments to a podcasting format that you would like us to add to our repertoire. So appreciate you guys. As always, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.